One thing has remained the same since humans first walked the earth. We've always excelled in creating new and effective ways to kill our fellow man. On this episode of the History Of, we're going to cover the history of the world's most recognisable weapon, the AK-47. Our story starts with a man called Mikhail Kalashnikov, who was born on November 10th, 1919, in Korea, Russia. He was the 17th of a family of 19 children. In 1930, during the Soviet period of collectivization, his family's property was seized and his family moved to an area known as Tomsk Oblast, which was a region of Siberia. Shortly after the move, he dropped out of school and began work as a tractor mechanic. This is where his taste for engineering flourished. In 1938, Mikhail Kalashnikov signed up with the Red Army, where he began working as a tank mechanic and would later rise the ranks to becoming a tank commander. During training, it said he would often tinker with machinery and invent small weapons which piqued the interest of his superiors. Mikhail was injured during the Battle of Bryansk and was in hospital from 1941 until 1942. It was during this time he heard some of his comrades complaining about the Soviet rifles that they used. Kalashnikov took it upon himself to design and create a new rifle for the Soviet Union. With the help of a few comrades, he developed a submachine gun, which was soon rejected by his superiors. But in 1943, he was hired by a machine building plant as a gun designer and began working on creating automatic weapons. He worked on numerous weapons during his time there, such as a gas-operated carbine in 1944. But it wasn't until 1947 when he achieved success with the creation of the AK-47. AK stands for Automat Kalashnikova, or Automatic Kalashnikov, and the 47 represents the year it was created. He may not have known this at the time, but his weapon would shape combat for many years to come. The Soviet military adopted his rifle in 1949 and was known for its incredible reliability. It was rugged, reliable and easy to operate, but most importantly, it was easy to mass produce. The AK-47 fired a 7.62mm round with a muzzle velocity of 700 meters per second. It had the functionality for both automatic and semi-automatic fire and boasted a firing rate of 600 rounds per minute. The AK had a gas return tube, which when fired would cause gas to push a piston, which would force back the mechanism, ejecting spent cartridges from the side, which would load in the next round. The AK-47 saw combat in every conflict where the Soviets were involved, up until its newest model, the AKM, replaced it in 1959. The AKM was a modernised version of its younger brother. It used a stamped sheet metal receiver, which made mass-producing parts much cheaper. Despite the success of the AK model of rifles, many in the military saw a few flaws with the Kalashnikov weapons. The prominent issue was the recoil of the weapon, which hindered the accuracy of Soviet troops. In order to change this, the AKM was reworked in the 70s and they developed their latest model, the AK-74. The AK-74 fired a 5.45mm round, which had a higher muzzle velocity. Despite the new AK-74 model, research was continued on how to perfect the weapon. One of these weapons was the AN-94, which fired 2 rounds in quick succession before recoil took effect. Then came the AK-107 and the AEK-971, but neither of these weapons were rolled out for the Russian military. In 2018, the latest offspring of the AK family was born. These were the AK-12 and the AK-15. The AK-12 kept the 5.45mm round, while the AK-15 returned back to the larger 7.62mm round. The weapons themselves were modified, allowing for tactical accessories such as grips, scopes and lasers. The AK platform of weapons have seen more combat than any other battle rifle in history. It's become the weapon of choice for many paramilitary groups and terrorist organisations worldwide, likely due to the abundance that were created, as well as their reliability in rough terrain. It even features on the national flag of Mozambique. Despite the first model being created over 70 years ago, it's likely that these rifles will remain a staple of war and conflict for many years to come. Thank you for watching this episode of The History Of. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe just leave a little comment down below with any topics you'd like me to cover in the future. And as always, thank you for being on the right side of history.